Zip, zap, zop. Zip, zap, zop. Hi, hope you're doing well. Welcome to the video. Today I'm existing. I have tried to make a voiceover for this video like 15 different times. Not actually 15 different times, but at this point it feels like 15 different times. I meant to upload a video like 2 weeks ago, and as you might be able to assume, it didn't happen. It did not happen. So anyway, I'm re-recording this because I'm dying and it's fine. As we all know, I don't know, you might be able to get this from some very quick inferencing, but I was an English major in college, and so I have a lot of opinions about things that don't matter, including literature that everybody knows about, including Pride and Prejudice. I first read Pride and Prejudice in like 8th grade, I think, like 8th grade-ish. My relationship with the book Pride and Prejudice has been basically love at first sight. We love to see it. Which is the opposite of what happens in the book. We love it. Woo, 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 woo. We love enemies to lovers. Mwah. The most recent season of Bridgerton was wonderful for me. Anyway, we're not talking about Bridgerton today. We're talking about Pride and Prejudice. We're talking about the pride. We're talking about the prejudice. We're talking about the emotional journey. Anyway, my first experience with Pride and Prejudice was in, I think, approximately the 8th grade, like I already said. We were driving on the way to my grandfather's house, and my sister turns to me in the car and she's like, "Hey, Nickel, we have this DVD with us called Pride and Prejudice. Would you like to watch it?" And I was like, I don't know. And she'd been trying to get me to watch it for like a couple of weeks because she and my mom had seen it, and they were like, "Ooh, this is vibes. Nickel, you might like this. This might be a good movie for you." And I was like, I don't know. It sounds, it might not be my thing. And so we watched it on the car ride to my grandfather's house, and I loved it. Now, when we got to my grandfather's house, I was like, wow, this was a beautiful work of art. Also, it was the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, starring Keira Knightley and directed by Joe Wright. First of all, we'll get into the lore of the movie in a second, but basically, I loved the movie and I couldn't get enough of it. So I got onto my sister's Kindle. I found her copy of Pride and Prejudice, and I read it beginning to end in like a couple of days. And thus began my love for Pride and Prejudice. Incredible, mwah, lovely. It has aged like fine wine. I love it more and more with each passing year since 8th grade. It's a good time to be alive, objectively. And then one day I learned about, the 1996, I don't know what year it came out, but it was the one with Colin Firth. I found out about that BBC miniseries and I was like, ooh, hello. And then I also heard about the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, and that was, oh my god. The Lizzie Bennet Diaries is an absolute work of art, and it should be a prime example of what to do if you are doing an adaptation of a classic novel. Like, it's the template. It is the guideline. It is the original. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I can't. A lot of people critique the 2005 Pride and Prejudice for several things, such as not being completely true to the original book, cutting things out, giving lines to different characters and stuff like that. And I'm just like, but they had to cut down Pride and Prejudice, which was properly told in 5.5 hours on the BBC miniseries, into 2.5 hours. Of course things were gonna get messed up. The fact that it is still a coherent story that's still just as compelling is an example of the fact that it was still very good storytelling, as well as cinematically beautiful, I think is a testament to how much care went into it. I think 2005 Pride and Prejudice, 10 out of 10. BBC miniseries starring Colin Firth, 10 out of 10. Lizzie Bennet Diaries, 10 out of 10. However, I do have a gripe with the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, which is this. There's that scene after Jane gets sick and she and Lizzie are at Netherfield just vibing, minding their own business, hanging out with men who are in love with them, and women who hate their guts, and it's great, and it's entertaining. And there is a scene when Miss Bennet, and Miss Bennet, that scene right there, right before the hand holding, they all have like a little family interview in the sitting room, and Mrs. Bennet is being herself, and then Mary says, "Oh man, I wish balls were more about like entertaining, intelligent thought and talking and less about dancing." And Caroline Bingley replies to her saying, yeah, it'd be less like a ball though. I think they should have kept those lines with the people who originally said them, because it's way funnier. Because the original person who says Mary's line is Caroline Bingley, because she's saying it in front of Darcy to make him more interested in her. So that he can be like, oh, Caroline's actually like really like intellectual and doesn't care about like all the like peacocking that happens at balls, and like she doesn't care about that. She cares about like books and stuff like that. I was like, that's so crazy. Wow, she's kind of pretty. But no, it falls through because the person who refutes her is Charles Bingley. Which is very, very funny, because it's one of the moments in the book where Charles Bingley has like a moment where you kind of recognize that he's not that stupid, that he's actually very smart. It's just that he's being heavily manipulated by the people around him, and he fully clowns his sister, who's already clowning herself by not being herself, who is acting more like Elizabeth to get Darcy's attention. It's just so funny, and I wish they'd kept it in like that, because it was so stupid. Like, Caroline embarrassed herself, and it was so entertaining, but they didn't keep it. Anyway, that is my biggest gripe with the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, is that Caroline didn't get to make as big a fool of herself as she originally could have. That is my gripe. I have nothing else to say on the matter. In a completely, like, different direction, I think one of the funny things about the way that I talk is there's two different concepts that come to the forefront of how I say my words. One of them is coherent thought, and the other one is incoherent thought. Now, my coherent thoughts exist for one reason and one reason alone. The fact that I tell myself things all over and over. You know how you kind of like talk to yourself? You know how you talk to yourself, just kind of telling stories in your little tiny brain and just going over the facts over and over again? I am only able to convey coherent thought because I do that, because I'm really bad at talking out loud, which is why this is really good practice for me, because I struggle talking out loud to people. I struggle with speaking my thoughts, which leads not only from those coherent thoughts, because here's the deal. When I tell stories, this is where I'm going from coherent to incoherent. When I tell stories, two things happen. Either it's a story that I've told before, and I've told it so many times that I tell it like it's one of my type 10, and I set it all up, and then I deliver the punchline, and it's incredible. Or we branch into my incoherent stories, which are kind of like being handed a piece of paper that is supposed to be a map, and then you're expected to take detailed notes and fill in all the points on the map yourself, while being like kind of being told where approximately all of the points are on the map, and then you eventually fill in, the boundaries of the map and all that stuff like that. That is what my incoherent stories are about, because it's not just about the beginning, the middle, and the end. It is about everything in between. It's about world building. I'm just joking. I don't know what I'm talking about. I am small brain. I am brain rot. I am head empty. Love to see it. I think that's why I like Pride and Prejudice so much. It's well written. I don't have to think. Pride and Prejudice was one of the first classic novels I ever read. It was a good gateway one. Although, if you're reading Jane Austen novels to get into classic literature, I would recommend Northanger Abbey first, because it's kind of a gothic novel, and it's shorter, and I feel like it's the easiest to understand. I feel like the introduction, the hook, I feel like it draws you in very, very well, and it's just a lovely story. Catherine is such a lovable heroine, and yeah, it's just a sweet story. If you were going to start on classical literature, I'd start with that one. Not Pride and Prejudice, Pride and Prejudice is like second or third, probably. Probably third, because I feel like second would probably be Sense and Sensibility, because that one's also great. But regardless, I love stories because I don't have to think them up in my brain, and I don't have to tell them myself, which is very funny because I'm always behind on watching movies and TV shows when it's so easily provided to me. The stories, the storylines, they're so easily provided to my poor little small brain rot brain, but I never dedicate any time to it. It's so embarrassing. But yeah, Pride and Prejudice and bad storytelling. Those are the two thoughts of the day. I don't feel like most of that made sense. That might have been that might have been the example of my two different coherent and incoherent thoughts right there. The explanation of why I love Pride and Prejudice and the explanation as to why I'm a bad storyteller. Unless I practice, which is the point. The point of storytelling is that you've practiced so that you can convey a coherent story instead of conveying an incoherent story. Wow, it's so crazy how everything comes full circle. Anyway, I hope you liked my incoherent thoughts. I think that's it. I think that's all I'm gonna say. Hopefully this turns out well, because I'll cry if it doesn't. I will cry, because then I'll have to record another one, and then pray that it doesn't take me another 2 weeks. Good grief. Anyway, I hope you liked the art that I made. It was really fun. A lot of, like, finger painting. Not finger painting, like, using stamps and stuff like that. And paper mosaic. Until next time. Thanks for watching.